Imagine coming home, right? You walk into your kitchen and you just sit down at the table.
Just a totally normal evening.
Exactly, completely mundane. And your partner, who has been acting a little erratic lately, lovingly places a sandwich in front of you.
Okay. Slightly weird, but fine.
Right, so you take a bite, and as you're chewing, you look over and you realize the urn containing the ashes of your recently deceased cat is empty.
Oh, God. It's just so visceral.
It really is. Your partner just fed you a sandwich made out of your dead pet.
Yeah, that's a lot to process.
And imagine, and this is the truly terrifying part, I think, that you are ultimately the one to blame for it. And on top of that, you decide to stay in the relationship anyway.
I mean, it is the absolute furthest thing from a fairy tale romance.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a complete obliteration of the concept of a red flag. We aren't just talking about a partner who is like a little controlling or, checks your text messages.
Right, the normal bad relationship stuff.
Exactly. We are talking about a scenario where the toxic obsession isn't just a personality quirk. It was literally and forcefully and magically willed into existence by the other person.
And it forces you to ask, at what point do you stop justifying your partner's behavior?
Yeah, seriously.
Because eating a cat-ash sandwich feels like a line you definitively shouldn't cross.
You would hope so, yeah.
Welcome back to another custom-tailored deep dive, curated specifically for you, the learner. Today, we are unpacking the absolute juggernaut that was the 2026 indie horror phenomenon, Obsession.
It really was a phenomenon, wasn't it?
It was massive, and we are pulling from a huge stack of source material today. We've got comprehensive production and box office data, plus a deep dive cultural and technical film analyses.
Which is a necessary spread of information, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this film wasn't just a financial success. It became a genuine cultural flashpoint.
Right. Our mission today is to figure out how a movie shot in just 26 days for roughly $750,000 managed to cross a $373 million mark at the worldwide box office.
Which is just a staggering number.
It shattered records, it beat major studio tentpoles, and more importantly, we need to understand the mechanics of why its psychological exploration of modern romance completely captivated audiences.
And critics, too. Everyone was talking about it.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the man behind the camera, Curry Barker.
What?
Because this guy didn't come through the traditional, polished Hollywood studio system, did he?
Not at all. And honestly, that non-traditional background is the skeleton key to understanding why the movie feels so radically different from a standard studio horror film.
So where did he come from?
Barker actually came up through the internet.
Really?
Yeah, he was one half of a YouTube sketch comedy duo called That's a Bad Idea.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Right. He was making short-form, really punchy internet comedy. And then he uploads this short horror film called The Share to his channel.
Which feels like such a massive pivot. I mean, you go from trying to make teenagers laugh on their phones to trying to genuinely terrify people.
This is like a huge jump, yeah.
But when you really think about the mechanics of a joke versus the mechanics of a jump scare, they are incredibly similar.
Well, exactly. It's all about the manipulation of tension.
How so?
Well, a sketch comedy writer knows exactly how to build an expectation, hold it for a beat, and then subvert it with a punchline.
Oh, I see.
Horror is the exact same mechanism. You build the tension, you hold it just long enough for the audience to feel uncomfortable.
And then you deliver the scare.
Precisely. Barker's background in sketch comedy basically taught him the rhythm of audience expectation.
That makes a lot of sense.
And more importantly, the internet gave him a real-time feedback loop.
Oh, through the comments and stuff.
Yeah. When you make YouTube videos, you know instantly from the comments and retention graphs exactly when your audience gets bored.
You are constantly being stress tested by the most impatient audience on earth.
Exactly. And this is part of a larger, really fascinating trend we are seeing. The internet acting as the new farm league for Hollywood directors.
Like who else?
Well, we saw it with Kane Parsons directing the Backrooms movie, which was another massive hit in the 2026 landscape.
Oh, right, the Backrooms guy.
Yeah. These creators are completely bypassing the traditional gatekeepers. And in Barker's case, The Chair caught the attention of a producer who wanted to turn that specific short into a feature film.
Okay, so he gets his foot in the door.
But Barker does something incredibly savvy. He uses the open door, but he pitches a completely different concept.
Wait, he didn't pitch The Chair?
No, he sends over a draft, a one-pager, and a lookbook for Obsession.
That is bold.
It really is. And it works. He gets signed, He gets an offer to direct with a $1 million budget.
Which is great for a first feature.
But here's where it gets really interesting. He actually gets a counteroffer,
Oh,
a $2 million offer to rewrite the script. So double the budget, but with one massive catch.
what was the catch?
The studio wanted him to rewrite the protagonist, Bear, as a traditional hero.
Oh, wow.
And Barker says no.
Wait, he turned down $2 million?
He turned it down just to preserve the dark, pathetic, cowardly nature of his main character.
That is wild. But honestly, it's like an indie garage band suddenly getting an offer to sell out a massive stadium, and the record exec says, we'll double your advance, just put a pop beat behind the drums.
That's a perfect analogy.
And the band says, no, the static and the feedback is the whole point. Barker knew that making Bear a hero would completely destroy the thematic weight of the movie.
Exactly. Turning down the money to keep the subversion intact was the ultimate power move. And from a financial perspective, preserving that creative integrity paid off exponentially.
Let's talk about those finances, because the trajectory is just staggering.
It really is. They end up shooting the film for a maximum of $750,000.
Which is pennies in Hollywood.
Right. It premieres at the Toronto International Film Festival, specifically in the Midnight Madness block, in September 2025.
And that's where things blow up, right?
Yeah. It sparks a $14 to $15 million bidding war.
Which Focus Features wins. And if I remember correctly from the sources, that's the highest price ever commanded by a genre film in TIFF history.
You're right. And every single penny was justified. The box office returns were just astronomical.
Give us the numbers.
It grossed $373 million worldwide.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, it became Focus Features' highest-grossing film of all time, easily dethroning Downton Abbey.
Beating Downton Abbey with a horror movie is hilarious to me.
It really is. It even outgrossed the movie Sinners to become the highest-grossing live-action English-language original movie of the 2020s.
And what's wild is that it didn't just have a massive opening weekend and then drop off a cliff.
Right, which is what usually happens with horror.
Yeah, horror movies are typically super front-loaded. Everyone rushes out on Friday night to get scared, and by the second weekend, ticket sales plummet by like 60 or 70%.
It's the standard pattern.
But the data shows that in its second weekend, Obsession had a 39% increase in box office revenue.
Which is insane.
And completely outside of a holiday frame, too.
Yeah.
That means word of mouth was so strong that people were just dragging their friends to see it.
Absolutely.
But I do want to push back a little on glamorizing this whole scrappy indie film narrative.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because when you make a movie for under $1 million that looks like a $100 million studio tentpole, those savings usually come from somewhere. Or, someone.
That is a very fair point.
And there was a pretty significant labor controversy regarding this production.
Yeah, it's a crucial part of the film's legacy that we have to examine.
What exactly happened?
Well, in June of 2026, the film's art director, Sally Choi, made a very public statement calling for industry reform.
And what did she say?
She revealed that on this non-union production, she was paid just $300 a day.
Which, for art direction, is extremely low.
Very low. And she wasn't just doing art direction. She was effectively acting as a production assistant, a set dresser, a graphic designer, and even a background actor.
Just wearing all the hats.
Yeah. And she also pointed out that some crew members were essentially volunteers, working only for gas and mileage compensation.
Wow. You look at a $373 million global gross, and you compare it to a crew member working for gas money? That is a jarring juxtaposition.
It is deeply uncomfortable.
We aren't here to take sides on the specific legalities of their contracts, but it does force a larger conversation, Does the financial reality of indie film inherently rely on exploiting passion, or is this just the messy reality of the industry?
It's a profound tension that really doesn't have a clean resolution.
Right, because if you tried to make this movie with union rates, strict hours, and compartmentalized roles, the budget balloons from $750,000 to probably $5 or $10 million.
Easily.
And at that point, maybe the studio doesn't take a risk on a weird movie about a magic stick.
Exactly. When you look at the critical reception, you have commentators marveling at the economic efficiency of the film.
Yeah, they praise the hustle.
They praise the fact that horror is this incredible incubator where you can take a tiny budget and a huge idea and bypass the corporate machine.
But Choi's statements bring the human cost of that efficiency into stark relief.
Independent cinema has always historically been subsidized by the sweat equity of its crew.
People work for pennies because they believe in the project.
Or they want the credit, or they just want to break into the industry.
But when the project makes $1/3 billion, that sweat equity starts to feel a lot like wage theft to the people who built the physical sets.
It definitely forces you to grapple with the ethics of consumption. We love the final polished product. We love the underdog story of a YouTuber conquering the box office.
But that victory is built on a foundation of precarious labor.
It's the messy, uncomfortable reality behind the camera.
Which is actually a perfect transition because messy, uncomfortable realities are the exact thematic core of the movie itself.
That is a very smooth pivot.
Thank you. Let's pivot from the behind-the-scenes audacity to the narrative audacity of obsession. Because the plot isn't rooted in some grand cosmic battle between good and evil.
Not at all.
It's rooted in the most pathetic, awkward, messy human emotion imaginable, unrequited love.
Specifically, the cowardly, passive-aggressive approach to unrequited love.
Yes. So let's establish the baseline. We have our protagonist, Baron Bear Bailey, played by Michael Johnston.
He's a guy working at a retail music store.
Right. He's friends with his coworker, Nikki, played by Inde Navarrette, and Bear has this massive, all-consuming crush on her.
But he won't do anything about it.
Exactly. But the inciting incident of this film is surprisingly dark and grounded. Bear comes home to find that his cat, Sandy, has died.
And it's not a supernatural death.
No, the cat accidentally ingested some oxycodone pills that were just left out.
It's a very deliberate choice by Barker to start the film with a mundane, tragic accident.
It's so jarring.
It immediately strips away any glossy cinematic sheen. It establishes a world where bad things happen, not because of a monster, but just because of carelessness.
Right. So Bear is grieving his cat, and he's still agonizing over this crush on Nikki. He wanders into a mystic crystal shop.
You know the type. Smells like patchouli, lots of velvet everywhere.
Yeah, he's looking for a gift for her.
Yeah.
And he ends up buying this novelty item called a one-wish willow.
Which is basically just a stick in a box.
A stick that claims it will grant you exactly one wish if you break it in half.
Naturally.
So later on, Bear and Nikki are hanging out, and Nikki actually does something that completely derails the whole nice guy trope. She confronts him directly.
She just looks at him and asks, point blank, "Do you like me?"
And what does Bear do? He panics. He nervously denies it.
He is handed the perfect opportunity to communicate his feelings like an adult.
The door is wide open.
She opens the door for him, and he completely folds.
He folds, and it's that frustration with his own cowardice that drives the next action. He's alone, he's angry at himself, and he takes out the one-wish willow.
And he breaks it.
He breaks it.
Yeah.
And his explicit wish is for Nikki to love him more than anyone in the world.
And the horrific part is, it works instantly.
Almost immediately, Nikki shows up at his house.
And she's acting completely erratic, claiming her estranged father is dying of cancer, and she just aggressively kisses him.
The underlying architecture of this premise is deeply rooted in classic horror folklore, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Barker has explicitly cited the 1991 Simpsons episode Treehouse of Horror 2 as his inspiration.
Which itself is a parody of W.W. Jacobs' classic short story, The Monkey's Paw.
Right. It's the ultimate be careful what you wish for scenario.
And the core rule of The Monkey's Paw is that the universe will grant your desire, but it will execute that desire with a horrific, ironic twist.
A twist that makes you deeply regret ever asking for it in the first place.
But when you look at the deeper critical analysis of obsession, the horror isn't just that the wish goes wrong.
No, the horror is the philosophical implication of what Bear actually did to Nikki.
Because he didn't just give her a love potion, he fundamentally altered her reality.
Right. There's a brilliant critical framing around this. If you use magic to force someone to love you, you are essentially committing psychological murder.
Wow, yeah.
You're changing the fundamental nature of who that person is. The original Nikki, the girl who liked working at the music store, who had her own agency and her own thoughts, is gone.
Bear killed her the moment he broke that stick.
Exactly. The entity walking around in her body is no longer Nikki. It is merely an avatar for an entirely new set of directives dictated by Bear's wish.
It is the complete deletion of a human being's free will, which is why I struggle so much with Bear as a character. Is he the ultimate nice guy villain?
He really is.
Because on the surface, he doesn't look like a threat. He's not a hulking guy with a machete chasing teenagers through the woods.
He's just a sad guy in a flannel shirt.
But his actions are incredibly violent on a psychological level. I was reading one piece of commentary that made a great joke about this. Bear might as well have wished for Nikki to act like the obsessed stalker girl from the 2002 thriller Swim Fan.
It's an incredibly apt comparison. The cultural criticism sphere has actually coined a specific term for this subgenre.
Oh, what is it?
They call it hetero-pessimist horror.
Okay, break that down for me. Hetero-pessimist horror.
It's a term used to describe media that explores the absolute bleakest, most cynical dynamics of modern gender relations and heterosexual dating culture.
Got it.
It's the idea that the baseline of romance is already fraught with toxic expectations, power imbalances, and communication breakdowns.
So Bear represents a very specific modern anxiety.
Yes. He isn't a stalker hiding in the bushes outside her window. He's a guy who is so deeply terrified of vulnerability, so scared of just enduring the normal human risk of rejection, that he would rather accidentally cast a voodoo spell to force the universe to give him what he wants.
It is the weaponization of passivity.
What's fascinating here is the sheer tragedy of the irony. Because if you analyze that scene where Nikki asks him if he likes her, she isn't acting repulsed.
No.
She's not gearing up to reject him.
The tragedy, which Barker has heavily implied is canon to the story, is that Nikki probably did have genuine feelings for Bear.
Or at the very least, she was completely open to exploring a relationship with him.
Yes, the magic wish was entirely unnecessary.
If he had just taken a breath, looked her in the eye and said, "Yes, I have feelings for you," they probably would have naturally started dating.
They might have had a perfectly normal, happy life together.
But his cowardice, his inability to just be honest for 5 seconds, is the catalyst that dooms them both.
It's a brilliant narrative bait and switch. Because it sounds like the setup to a raunchy early 2000s comedy, right? Loser guy finds a magic stick and makes his hot coworker fall for him.
Yeah, a total teen comedy premise.
But the visceral execution of this cursed relationship shifts the film into pure, unadulterated horror. Because the wish doesn't just make her affectionate.
Not at all. It interprets love him more than anyone in the world as a clinical, dangerous, all-consuming obsession.
And that pivot hinges entirely on the performance of Inde Navarrette.
Oh, absolutely. If she doesn't nail this role, the entire movie falls apart into parody.
But the critical consensus is unanimous. She is phenomenal.
People are comparing the impact of her performance to Toni Collette in Hereditary.
Or even Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Her performance is effectively the special effect of the movie.
It really is. Because the director needed someone who could balance being a normal, relatable person with a frightening supernatural presence.
And Navarrette brings this incredibly natural, almost bro-y, sassy energy to the beginning of the film.
She feels like someone you would actually work with at a record store. It makes the friend zone dynamic feel authentic.
But once the wish takes hold, the physical transformation is staggering.
And what's wild is that all the physical behavior, the erratic movements, the screaming, the bizarre facial expressions, none of that is CGI.
Which requires an immense amount of physical and emotional control as an actor. Navarrette has mentioned drawing inspiration from actors like Betty Gabriel in Get Out and Mia Goth in Pearl.
And you can absolutely see that lineage. It taps into the horror of the uncanny.
It's not a monster with tentacles. It's someone you know, someone you care about. But the consciousness operating behind their eyes is completely alien.
And the actions that the wish forces her body to take are just jaw-dropping.
Like the cat ashes.
Right. We talked about Bear's cat, Sandy, dying at the beginning of the movie. Well, possessed Nikki decides to create a memorial for Bear using the dead cat's ashes.
Which is messed up enough on its own.
But if that wasn't unhinged enough, Bear later discovers the truth about the lunch she made him. She literally fed him a sandwich made using the ashes of his dead pet.
It's a grotesque escalation. It's designed to test the limits of the viewer's endurance.
I was squirming in my seat.
But, more importantly, it is designed to test Bear's complicity.
Yes. This is the part of the movie where I find myself physically tense, just wanting to scream at the screen. Like, at what point do you look at your partner and say, okay, you fed me my dead cat, we are done here?
Bear is watching her duct tape, his door closed. He's watching her act completely divorced from reality.
And he just keeps trying to rationalize it.
He accepts it because, interspersed with the madness, she has moments where she acts like a loving, doting girlfriend.
He just wants to enjoy the illusion of the relationship and ignore the monster he created. So explain this to me. Why do audiences find Bear's passive complicity so much more disturbing than a traditional horror villain?
Because Bear's behavior is a magnified reflection of real-world codependency.
Interesting.
When you watch a movie with an active slasher villain, a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees, that is an external threat. It's a force of nature.
Your only response is to run away or fight back. The dynamic is simple.
Exactly. But Bear's complicity is internal. It forces the audience to confront the horrific reality of what human beings will tolerate just to avoid being alone.
It's the ultimate sunk cost fallacy applied to a human soul.
That's a great way to put it. A great way to look at this is through the lens of the classic 1980s erotic thriller. Think of a movie like Fatal Attraction, where you have the obsessive, dangerous woman terrorizing the male protagonist.
Obsession takes that exact trope and turns it inside out.
Yes, Bear is being stalked and terrorized by an obsessive woman, but he caused it. He pressed the button.
He doesn't get to be the innocent victim trying to protect his life. He is a prisoner of his own selfish design.
And the movie is very careful to make sure we don't just view Nikki as a one-dimensional monster.
She is profoundly a victim in this scenario. There is a scene that is just devastating to think about.
The sleep-talking scene.
Yes. Bear wakes up in the middle of the night. Nikki is asleep next to him, but she is sleep-talking. And for just a brief moment, the real lucid consciousness of Nikki manages to break through the suppression of the curse.
And in her sleep, she begs Bear to kill her.
It is the emotional core of the film's horror. It confirms that the original Nikki didn't just disappear. She is trapped in pure hell.
She is aware of the horrific things her body is doing. She's aware of the obsession, but she is completely unable to stop it. It is a locked-in syndrome of the soul.
And how does Bear react to the woman he supposedly loves begging for death to escape the torture he put her through?
He is offended.
He gets defensive. His narcissism completely overrides his empathy. He is actually upset that she would rather die than be with him.
It's a masterclass in psychological dread.
It really is.
And what makes the claustrophobia of this relationship so effective isn't just the writing or the acting. The sheer terror is amplified by incredibly clever, low-budget technical filmmaking.
I really want to get into the technical weeds here, because achieving this level of dread on a $750,000 budget is practically a magic trick itself.
Let's start with the visual framing. The film was deliberately shot in a 1.5:1 aspect ratio.
For you listening, if you aren't a camera nerd, that means the image on the screen is much boxier, almost like an old square television set, compared to the super wide panoramic widescreen formats we are used to seeing in theaters today.
Right. And choosing that aspect ratio isn't just an aesthetic gimmick. It has a physiological effect on the viewer.
How so?
By cutting off the edges of the world, you are severely limiting the audience's peripheral vision. In evolutionary biology, our peripheral vision is tied to our fight-or-flight response.
Oh, because it's how we spot predators creeping up on us.
Exactly. When a filmmaker artificially removes that peripheral space, our brains naturally feel a sense of claustrophobia and heightened anxiety.
It perfectly mirrors Bear's suffocating reality in this relationship.
And it's not just the shape of the screen, it's what they put inside it. The lighting in this movie is so unnerving.
I've seen comparisons to the Swedish director Roy Andersson.
Right, who is famous for creating these meticulously crafted, hyper-artificial sets where the lighting feels completely unnatural.
Obsession does something similar, primarily through its heavy, oppressive use of shadow.
There are pivotal scenes where Nikki's face is almost entirely obscured in darkness. It's not a mistake. It's not that they couldn't afford better lights.
It's an intentional choice to light her so that all you can see is a tiny sparkle reflecting in her eyes.
She is visually rendered as a silhouette, representing the hollow shadow of the person Bear actually wanted to date.
And what's brilliant is that this lighting philosophy extends to places that should feel safe. Like, there are daytime scenes inside the retail music store where they work.
Normally, a retail store on film is blasted with bright, clinical fluorescent lighting.
But in this movie, even the store has this creeping, unnatural shadow clinging to the corners of the room. By breaking standard filmmaking rules about how a mundane space should look, the film is bypassing your logical brain.
It's whispering directly to your subconscious. that the fabric of reality in this world is fundamentally broken.
It's the creation of visual dissonance. It's like when you're listening to a song and the drummer is just a microsecond off tempo.
Yes.
Your brain knows something is wrong before you can even articulate it. You feel the dissonance in your stomach before your ears can explain it to you.
And the director, Curry Barker, uses audio and editing tricks to hammer that dissonance home. The audiovisual tricks are arguably the most innovative part of the film.
Tell me about the reversed movement trick.
So there are scenes where Nikki's physical movements feel dreamy, sluggish, and just biologically wrong. The way Barker achieved this is fascinating. He actually had Navarrette perform her movements in reverse during the shoot.
Wow.
She would walk backward or move her arms backward. Then in the editing room, he played the footage forward.
So she's physically moving backward, but the film is reversed, so it looks to us like she's moving forward.
Right, but the physics of her joints, the way her muscles flex, gravity, it's all inverted.
It creates an immediate, visceral, uncanny valley effect.
It's like watching a spider walk. You know it's an animal moving forward, but the joint articulation is so alien to human biology that your amygdala instantly flags it as a threat.
And they double down on this discomfort with the audio, don't they? The ADR trick. This blew my mind.
Right. There's a specific scene in a car where Nikki lays her head on the dashboard. She's making heavy breathing noises and then speaks a line of dialogue.
But the audio we hear, the breathing and the words, is completely mismatched from how her body is actually moving on screen.
It is an intentional use of bad ADR, or automated dialogue replacement.
Which is so counterintuitive because usually if you see mismatched audio in a movie where the lips move but the sound hits your ears a half second later, you immediately think, wow, what a sloppy mistake, the editor messed up.
But here, combined with the revert footage and the unnatural lighting, it is a deliberate weapon to make you feel nauseous.
It really works.
When sensory input doesn't align, when you see an action but hear the result at the wrong time, your brain's temporal lobe essentially short circuits. It feels like a localized glitch in reality.
It's so unsettling.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand that modern horror audiences are hyper-literate. We've seen every jump scare. We know all the tropes.
You may know the exact musical swell that tells us the monster is hiding in the closet.
Exactly. So directors like Barker have to invent entirely new audiovisual languages to genuinely bypass our defenses.
You can't just throw a goblin at the screen anymore. You have to make the screen itself feel sick.
And the musical score is entirely complicit in that sickness. The score by Rock Burwell isn't just a collection of spooky, screeching violins.
It's far more insidious.
The music often relies on these pleasant, upbeat indie rock chords. But the chords are subtly distorted. They're slightly out of tune.
So even in moments that seem lighthearted on the surface, like a montage of Bear and Nikki having fun together, the music has this foreboding, sickening quality that refuses to let you relax.
It constantly reminds you that the pleasantness you're watching is a lie.
And the film's relationship with loud noises is equally mature. Let's talk about how the film handles diegetic versus non-diegetic sound.
Okay, let's define that quickly for the listener.
Right. Diegetic sound is any noise that happens inside the world of the movie, which the characters can actually hear, like a glass shattering on the floor.
And non-diegetic sound is noise added over the top in post-production, which the characters cannot hear, like the cinematic musical score or a booming sound effect.
Exactly. Most cheap, low-budget horror movies rely heavily on loud, non-diegetic sounds to create fake jump scares.
The classic example, a character opens a medicine cabinet, a cat jumps out, and the soundtrack blasts a massive, deafening boom to startle the audience in their seats.
It's a cheap trick.
It breaks the rhythm of the scene not with narrative tension, but by artificially jolting the viewer's nervous system.
What's brilliant about Obsession is that it refuses to use fake-out, non-diegetic noise. The loud noises on the soundtrack only ever complement actual, terrifying events happening inside the universe.
Right. There is a scene where Bear and Nikki are kissing on the bed. It's quiet. And suddenly, with absolutely no musical buildup, Nikki violently pulls back and just starts screaming at the top of her lungs.
It's terrifying.
The rhythm of the scene is broken by the character's terrifying reality, not by the editor trying to play a trick on you. It demands that the audience respect the danger of the narrative, because the movie isn't going to hold your hand with musical cues.
But creating that creepy atmosphere only works if you truly believe the characters can suffer. You have to establish stakes.
And the movie establishes that brutal reality in the very first scene.
We have to circle back to the death of Bear's cat, Sandy, because it was actually a huge point of contention among critics.
It is a highly controversial opening.
It is. Some reviewers admitted they almost checked out of the movie right there.
A lot of the criticism was purely logistical. The cat dies from eating oxycodone pills. The question is, how does a cat physically open a child-proof pill bottle?
Right. It seems like a massive plot hole right out of the gate. And furthermore, the dead cat keeps popping back up in the narrative, literally with the ashes, which led to some tonal confusion.
But from a structural storytelling perspective, there is a very strong argument that the cat's death is absolutely necessary.
Why?
Because it immediately proves to the audience that the movie will not pull its punches.
Exactly. It strips away the illusion of plot armor. It tells you, if we are willing to kill a beloved innocent pet in the first 5 minutes of runtime, absolutely no one in this cast is safe.
It injects a sense of heavy, inescapable consequence into the rest of the film.
And yet, despite those heavy consequences, the film is laced with this pitch-black, absurdist comedy.
This is where Curry Barker's background in sketch comedy really shines through in the world building.
Because the world isn't just scary, it's bizarrely bureaucratic.
For instance, the magical one-wish willow stick, this ancient, reality-bending artifact, literally has a toll-free customer service helpline printed on the back of the box.
Which is the funniest, most millennial concept ever. You break reality and your first instinct is to call tech support.
Bear actually calls the number to try and alter his wish.
And the voice on the other end of the line, which, fun fact, was actually recorded by the director, Curry Barker, speaking into his iPhone while he was editing the movie, sounds completely detached.
He sounds like a guy working a graveyard shift at a cable company. He isn't spooky, he's just bored.
He casually informs Bear that the wish is non-refundable and will only expire when Bear dies. And then, without missing a beat, he patches a screaming Nikki through to the line.
It is so funny, but so incredibly stressful.
It's the comedy of absolute powerlessness. And you have other moments like this, too, like the guy working at the Mystic Crystal shop.
Oh yeah, when Bear goes back to the shop to try and buy more sticks to fix the situation, the shopkeeper is just casually covered in blood.
And it's never explained. It's played totally straight. Or the scene with Bear's friend Ian, played by Barker's comedy partner Cooper Tomlinson.
Bear is trying to explain this insane magical situation. Ian thinks Bear's losing his mind. So to prove a point, Ian sarcastically breaks a stick and wishes for $1 billion.
And actual physical cash just violently crashes through the ceiling in the apartment.
The humor serves a very specific physiological purpose.
I know you mean.
If a horror movie is just 90 minutes of unrelenting darkness and depression, the audience becomes numb to it. It becomes an unbearable slog.
You just tuned out.
By injecting these moments of surreal, laugh-out-loud comedy, the film allows the audience to exhale. It lets you catch your breath just long enough so that the next horrific drop feels even more severe.
The comedy is the steep incline of the roller coaster before the plunge.
Exactly. And the drops in the third act get incredibly severe. The violence escalates dramatically.
Let's talk about the climax, because things spiral completely out of control. Bear is desperately trying to fix the situation, but he realizes he is entirely out of his depth.
He discovers that Nikki has murdered their coworker, Sarah.
Now, Sarah is a tragic figure here because she actually liked Bear, and she genuinely tried to warn him about Nikki's red flags.
In response to that perceived threat to her relationship, Nikki violently kills Sarah by repeatedly slamming her head into a brick through a car window.
And it's worth noting the censorship battle around that specific scene.
The production notes indicate that the scene had to be heavily cut down. They had to remove 6 or 7 separate head smashes just to avoid getting an NC-17 rating from the MPA.
The violence isn't meant to be slick or cool. It is meant to be grueling, exhausting, and excessive.
Grueling is exactly the right word, because Bear goes back to his apartment and he finds the aftermath.
He finds the mutilated corpse of Sarah, and Nikki is there, and she is wearing Sarah's dress, and she's wearing Sarah's scalp.
We have entered full-blown nightmare territory. It's no longer a toxic relationship. It's a hostage situation.
Nikki is waving a gun around, threatening Bear and threatening to kill herself if he leaves. Ian arrives at the apartment, completely unaware of the danger, and Nikki instantly shoots him dead.
The situation has reached the absolute point of no return. The comedy is gone. The rationalization is gone.
Bear locks himself in the bathroom. He realizes that the customer service guy was right. The only way to break the curse, the only way to end the wish, is if he dies.
So he takes the gun, and he intends to shoot himself to save everyone.
But he can't do it. Even in the face of absolute carnage, he is too cowardly to pull the trigger.
Instead, he finds the rest of the oxycodone pills, the same pills that killed his cat, and he takes them to overdose.
But almost immediately after swallowing them, he changes his mind again. He tries to induce vomiting.
It perfectly encapsulates his entire character arc. He cannot commit to a decision.
He can't commit to being the hero, not even to stop a massacre that he started.
But this is where the strict, ironic mechanics of the wish kick in. Nikki, who is outside the bathroom door, realizes she is losing him. She takes the very last one wish willow.
The critical consensus interprets this moment as the possessed version of Nikki using the final wish to force Bear to love her back, or at least to force him to open the door and come out to her.
Under the irresistible influence of this new wish, Bear emerges from the bathroom. He kisses Nikki, and then he finally succumbs to the overdose and dies.
By dying, Bear breaks the original wish.
Yes. And the final moments of the film are what truly elevate it from a great indie horror movie to a lasting masterpiece of emotional horror.
Bear is dead on the floor. A lesser movie would have centered on his face. It would have played swelling music and framed him as a tragic, misunderstood hero who made the ultimate sacrifice for love.
But obsession doesn't linger on him. The camera stays entirely on Nikki. She was preparing to shoot herself with the gun.
But the exact second Bear's heart stops, the curse breaks.
The real Nikki, the girl from the music store, regains control of her own mind and body mere seconds before pulling the trigger. She drops the gun.
And the realization of what she wakes up to is just sickening.
She looks around the room. She sees her friend Sarah's mutilated body. She realizes she is wearing her scalp.
She sees Ian dead. She is covered in blood. And she just drops to her knees and wails hysterically as she realizes the sheer, unfathomable carnage her body committed while she was trapped inside it as a passenger.
Lingering on the victim's trauma is what cements the film's thesis. The critical commentary praises this decision heavily.
The movie refuses to grant Bear a redemptive death.
It stays with the woman whose life he completely, irrevocably destroyed through his selfish, careless desire.
She is technically free of the magic curse, but she is now trapped in a waking, real-world nightmare. She's going to face multiple murder charges, life in prison, and profound, untreatable psychological trauma.
So, this is the debate I want to have with you. Bear's final act, taking the pills. Is it technically a sacrifice?
Does he earn any redemption for finally ending it? Or is it just the ultimate cowardly exit? He couldn't deal with the mess he made, so he literally checked out, leaving Nikki to face the police and the destroyed lives all by herself.
Psychologically, it is undeniably a cowardly exit. It is an act of passive destruction. Even his method of death proves it.
He didn't make a resolute, heroic choice to sacrifice himself.
He took pills, regretted it, tried to throw them up, and was dragged into death by his own incompetence. He didn't die to save her, he died because he was out of options, and he left her holding the bag for his sins.
It is a devastating final critique of the nice guy trope.
It's a warning about the guy who thinks he means well, who thinks his love is pure, but whose absolute inability to face reality ends up causing far more destruction than an honest, intentional villain ever could.
It is so bleak, but so incredibly powerful. So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out and pull this all together.
Obsession didn't just break box office records because it had a clever marketing campaign or a catchy trailer.
It resonated on a global scale because it perfectly captured the very real, very ugly anxieties of modern romance.
It took the fear of codependency, the fear of losing your identity in a relationship, and the fear of a partner who refuses to see you as a real person, and it wrapped all of that in brilliant, low-budget technical craftsmanship.
It leveraged the pacing and tone of internet-era humor, courtesy of Curry Barker's YouTube roots, and it married that humor to a deeply cynical, philosophical exploration of free will and desire.
It proved definitively that you don't need a massive studio budget, CGI monsters, or A-list actors to terrify an audience. You just need to deeply understand what actually keeps people up at night.
It is a stark reminder to you, the listener, of how dangerously easy it is to fall into Bear's trap. How easy it is to try and mold a partner into an idealized fantasy in your head, rather than doing the hard, messy work of accepting who they really are, flaws and all.
When we refuse to communicate our needs, when we choose the comfort of a toxic illusion over the reality of another human being, we are taking a step down the exact same path Bear took.
The magic stick was just a catalyst. The real monster was the expectation.
Exactly.
So we're going to leave you with a final, lingering thought to ponder on your own. Imagine you walked into that dimly lit mystic shop today, and sitting right there on the shelf, wedged between the incense and the crystals, is the one wish willow.
And let's say you knew, with absolute 100% certainty, that it worked.
Would you trust yourself to use it? Or does the very act of forcing the universe to bend to your personal desires automatically make you the villain of your own story?
It's a terrifying mirror to hold up to yourself. Sometimes the red flag isn't a text message or controlling comment. Sometimes the red flag is the wish itself.
Be careful what you wish for. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We will catch you on the next one.